I'm Beverly. The phone in my hand felt cold, and on the other end of the line was my daughter, Emily. Her voice was filled with panic as she told me that all her law school applications were falling apart, and that internship she was so desperate for had vanished. Standing in my office at the legal aid clinic, I held back my emotions and replied coldly, advising her to turn to her new mother, Amelia. As I hung up the phone, memories came flooding back, like a long-buried river breaking through a dam. It all started at that fateful Thanksgiving dinner. The turkey shimmered on the antique platter, an heirloom that had graced our holiday table for as long as I could remember. The scent of roasted chestnuts and warm stuffing filled the air, but there was an undercurrent of tension in the room. Emily sat across from me, her eyes avoiding mine. She had been acting distant ever since my ex-husband, Henry, married Amelia, a high-flying corporate lawyer from a well-known firm. Amelia promised Emily a fast track to a successful legal career, with all her connections and influence. My mother, Mildred, always the peacemaker, tried to break the ice. "Emily, how are your law school applications going?" Emily's face lit up, and I knew something was coming. "I have an announcement," she said with a practiced confidence. The room fell silent. My sister, Lucy, shot me a worried look. I had asked her to keep calm. After all, Thanksgiving was a time for family, even if it was a bit fractured. "I've decided to change my last name to Amelia's, to read," Emily declared. My hand, holding the fork, froze midway. Everyone at the table stopped moving, and the silence was so thick you could cut it with a knife. Emily continued, "Amelia has shown me what it means to be a strong woman in law. She's opened more doors for me in a year than anyone else ever has. She's my real inspiration, and I want to honor her by taking her name." My mother's jaw dropped, and Lucy's knuckles turned white on the edge of the table. Henry shifted uncomfortably in his seat, and Amelia preened, as if this was the greatest achievement of her life. I took a deep breath, picked up a roll, and started buttering it slowly, methodically, as if the whole world depended on it. "Mom?" Emily's voice wavered. "Aren't you going to say anything?" I looked up at her for the first time in what felt like ages. "Pass the cranberry sauce, please," I said, my voice steady. Lucy let out a sound that was half a laugh, half sob. My mother reached under the table and squeezed my hand, but I just took a bite of the roll and chewed slowly, ignoring Emily's expectant gaze. The rest of the dinner was torture. Conversations started and stopped abruptly, like a sputtering engine. Emily kept stealing glances at me, clearly unsettled by my lack of reaction. Amelia kept patting Emily's hand possessively, and Henry drank too much wine. After dinner, I excused myself to the kitchen to help with the dishes. Lucy followed me in. "How can you be so calm?" she hissed. "She just disrespected you in front of the whole family." I turned on the hot water and started scrubbing the plates. "She made her choice, Lucy. Amelia has been in her life for a year, but I raised her for 25 years on my own. I worked 2 jobs to put her through school, to give her every opportunity. Are you just going to let this go?" Lucy demanded. I dried my hands on a towel and thought about the network I had built over the years. I had clerked for Judge Thompson when I was pregnant with Emily. I remembered how I bounced a crying baby on my hip while doing crucial research for the partners at Sterling and Associates. And I had made friends with the law school admissions officers through years of volunteering at the legal aid clinic. "I'm going to finish cleaning up," I said, "and then I'm going home." That night, in my home office, surrounded by the evidence of my hard-earned career, second-hand law books, photos from fundraising events, and letters of gratitude from clients, I sat down at my laptop. I started typing emails. To Judge Thompson, I wrote that there had been a change of circumstances regarding Emily's recommendation letter. I sent a similar email to Professor Davis at Harvard Law, who had agreed to review Emily's application. And to Sarah at Sterling and Associates, I informed her that Emily would be pursuing her legal career independently, and any recommendations should come from her new family. The next day, I called Robert at Sterling and Associates directly. Robert and I had a long history. I had been his paralegal during the case that made his name, working 16-hour days while Emily was in daycare that I could barely afford. "Beverly," he said warmly, "happy Thanksgiving. How's our future lawyer?" "That's why I'm calling, Robert," I said. "Emily has decided to align herself with Amelia's family. I think it's best if any professional connections go through Amelia Reed now." There was a long pause on the other end. "Amelia Reed from Grant and Phillips? She has a reputation for being ruthless and taking credit for others' work. And you're no longer vouching for Emily?" "I think it's best if she makes her own way," I replied. "Understood," Robert said. "You know, that internship was more for you than for her. You saved my career back then. If you're not backing her..." "I understand," I said softly. By the end of the week, the dominoes started to fall. Judge Thompson's secretary called to say the recommendation letter wouldn't be written. Professor Davis's research assistant position, which was promised to Emily, was given to someone else. And the internship at Sterling and Associates was no longer an option. Emily started calling, followed by Henry and some unknown numbers that I assumed were Amelia's. I let all their calls go to voicemail and focused on my work at the legal aid clinic. I had been volunteering here for 18 years, building relationships and making a difference in people's lives. One afternoon, my colleague, Linda, poked her head into my office. "There's a young woman here asking for you. She says she's your daughter." I looked up from the brief I was reviewing. "Send her in." Emily walked in, looking as polished as ever. Amelia's influence was evident in her designer suit and perfect makeup. But there was a wild look in her eyes, like a cornered animal. "Mom," she started, then corrected herself, "Beverly. My law school applications are a mess. Judge Thompson won't write my recommendation. Professor Davis says the position is filled. And Sterling and Associates won't even return my calls." "That's too bad," I said, keeping my tone professional. "Have you talked to Amelia? I'm sure her connections can help." Emily's perfect facade cracked. "Amelia's connections are all in corporate law. I want to do public interest law. I need the judges, professors, and partners that you know." "I see," I said. "Mom, please. I know what I said at Thanksgiving was wrong." "I was stupid," Emily pleaded. "Wrong? Emily, you publicly announced that Amelia is more of a mother to you than I am. That's not just wrong, that's a choice, a clear choice about who you consider your family." "I didn't mean it like that," she stammered. "Yes, you did. You've been meaning it for a year. Every time you asked Amelia to review your applications instead of me. Every time you skipped our coffee dates to network at her firm. Every time you posted on social media about your amazing mentor, while I was just the woman who gave birth to you. That's not fair. What's not fair is that you're ruining my future over this," she shouted. I laughed, a short, bitter laugh. "I'm not ruining your future. I'm respecting your choice. If Amelia is your real mother now, then let her network support you. Let her reputation vouch for you. You know she can't." "But she promised me," Emily said, her voice breaking. "She promised me a bright future. She promised you connections, not a future. Success isn't about who you know, it's about who knows you, who trusts you, and who is willing to put their reputation on the line for you," I said firmly. "The Sterling internship was my dream," Emily said, tears streaming down her face. "No, it was a favor I could call in. Robert hired you because I worked myself to the bone for him. Judge Thompson was going to recommend you because I volunteered for her campaign when you were a toddler. Professor Davis offered you the position because I've been guest lecturing in his class for years." "I didn't know," she whispered. "Because you never asked. You assumed everything came easily because of your own merit, with a little help from Amelia's influence. You never saw the years of hard work, the sacrifices I made, the relationships I built, all while raising you on my own. What am I supposed to do now? She asked, looking defeated. Apply to law school on your own merits. Build your own network, earn your own recommendations. That's what Amelia has been preaching about being a strong woman in law, I said. Emily left my office without another word. Over the next few months, I heard about her struggles. Amelia's corporate connections were useless in the public interest law field. The professors and judges who could have helped wouldn't touch an applicant who had publicly disowned the woman who had built a reputation for herself in the legal community. Henry called me once, shouting and accusing me of being vindictive. I calmly reminded him that I was just respecting Emily's choice. She's changing her last name to Amelia's. Why would she want recommendations from someone who's not her real mother? About 6 months later, I received a handwritten letter from Emily. The paper was a soft cream color, and her handwriting was careful and sincere. Mom, it began, I spent half a year learning what you tried to teach me for 25 years. Real connections are made through hard work and dedication, not at fancy networking events. Respect is earned by serving others, not by status. I was a fool, and I was cruel to you. I let Amelia's flashy lifestyle blind me to your quiet strength and the sacrifices you made for me. I'm not asking for your connections back. I'm not asking for recommendations. I'm just asking if one day, you can forgive the daughter who forgot what it means to have a real mother. I love you, and I'm keeping my name, the one you gave me, the one I'm finally proud of. Your daughter, Emily. I sat there, holding the letter in my hands for a long time. Then I picked up my phone and called Judge Thompson. Thompson, it's Beverly. About that recommendation letter we discussed. Because that's what mothers do. Even when their children forget, even when it hurts, we're always there, ready to rebuild the relationship when they finally understand.